So I was walking around and Mr. DIY the other day and I saw this and it grabbed my attention because of just how cute it is. Anyway, so I bought this for 30 ringgit and I'm pretty impressed. Not everything it does is good, but for that price, let's just talk about it. And my name is Noel, by the way, and I review stuff sometimes. Anyway, this is the Sibyl W-11. And I don't know what Nomo Duck is. I tried to do some research before starting this video. The things that I found aren't really telling me much, but I guess this is just a mascot that Sibyl made to actually pretend like they have a collab with a bigger brand or something, which isn't bad, but it is pretty misleading, to be honest. Anyway, like I said, I grabbed this because it's really cute. I love the duck face design that it has, and also, or especially, that duck bill. But after having it in my hands and using it for a few days, I also love how small and compact it is as well. And I guess let's just talk about it. The case itself is pretty light, but it does feel dense in the hand, which is pretty surprising for a very cheap pair of earbuds. The magnet is pretty strong as well. As hard as I shake it, it won't open. But do take note that the hinge on the lid is very flimsy, so even if you angle it just a bit, it will close by itself. Anyway, the only thing that you should really be careful with is when it is open. It's pretty easy to shake the buds out of the case itself because the magnets of the buds aren't as strong as the one on the lid. There isn't anything else to talk about the case, so let's just move on with the design of the buds themselves. They are pretty obviously a clone of Apple's AirPods, and honestly, there isn't anything to write home about, but to give them credit, they are really comfortable when putting them in my ears, and they do sit and fit pretty nicely as well. During my runs and workouts, they stayed in my ears pretty well. Sometimes during my workout, it did feel like the buds would slip out, but fortunately they didn't. But the perfect fit would also depend on your ears as well. And because of its design, this is technically a one size fits all type of design. So it will vary when it comes to the fit between individuals. And since we're talking about fit, let's just talk about the noise cancellation because there isn't none. You shouldn't expect any sort of active noise cancellation, especially for its price. And when it comes to passively blocking out the noise, it does a decent job, but don't expect too much because it will depend on how loud you crank the volume on these. But at the same time, you will still hear your surroundings, you will still hear the noise from your environment, which for me personally is a good thing if you are someone who, I guess, runs a lot in busy streets, because that would make this a safer pair of earbuds to use because you can hear certain cars, certain sounds, where they're coming from, or if you are in danger, you do hear the horns of cars and all that. But if you are looking for something to completely block out the noise, I guess this isn't really for you guys. I guess continuing on with the design of the earbuds themselves, they do feature touch controls but no in-ear detection whatsoever. So if you are looking for that in-ear detection where you take them out and it automatically stops your music, these don't have it. But when it comes to the touch controls, they were honestly fiddly at first. It was kind of difficult to understand in the beginning because I didn't even know that they had touch controls unless I read the manuals. The box doesn't say anything about touch controls. And to be fair to me, who reads the instruction manuals these days anyways? So I kept hearing like beeps whenever I touch the stems of the earbuds, and it got me curious, do these actually have touch controls? That made me look up the manual, and yeah, it does have touch controls. It basically has a very simple system as well, which I really like. This makes it a really good plug and play earbuds as well. So just to simply explain a gist of the touch controls, you double tap either of the earbuds and it will play or pause the music. You triple tap the left or the right to go to the previous track or go to the next track. You press and hold for 3 seconds to change modes, and there are 2 modes. There's a music mode and a gaming mode, but I'll touch on that more a little bit later. And when you do touch and hold for a longer time, it will turn off the buds completely. And apart from that, it will also automatically turn off when it is disconnected for more than 3 minutes. And that's a first for me because I honestly haven't found or haven't tried any wireless earbuds that does that. Because most of my experiences when I want to turn the earbuds off, I just put them back into the case. But for this, it gives more options. And I guess that's mainly for power saving purposes, because this doesn't have a big battery. It honestly doesn't say anything about battery size on the box, but it does give us a hint of what to expect, because playback time and calling time are both rated at 2 to 3 hours, which is honestly a very short period. But charging time is fair as well. When you do have the case, or when you do put the buds in the case, it will take about half an hour to charge them back. And when you do need to recharge the case, it takes like an hour and a half. But going back to what it says on the box, I'm not sure if that playback time is just for the buds themselves or a total with the case. Anyway, I've touched on the battery. I guess I'll touch on what I've been using these for. I have watched videos with these, I listen to podcasts, I listen to music. I also did a bit of gaming just to test out the latency. Now, since I mentioned latency, let's just talk about that for a bit. I said that this has 2 modes, a music mode and a gaming mode. Honestly, sound-wise, nothing really different between the 2 modes, but in terms of latency, there is an obvious advantage of the gaming mode because it does cut out latency pretty well. But that is just from my casual observation. I didn't do any scientific testing on them, but from what I observe, there is just a slight bit of latency, but it doesn't really distract you from the gaming experience as a whole. But like I said, you do need to change to that gaming mode because with the music mode, the latency is very, very obvious. It's like a second or more of delay. But that's just gaming, because confusingly when it comes to the videos that I watch, even in the music mode, I honestly didn't notice any sort of latency. Just from me trying to match the voices with the videos that I'm watching, I didn't notice any sort of latency, which is surprising and good, I guess. And when it comes to the sound quality, let's just touch on podcasts for a bit. Podcasts do sound good. The voices sound full. It's not thin at all, and it provides for a very pleasing experience. But when it comes to music, it is quite a bit of a different story. The box does show a graph, but I'm not sure if this graph is specific to the earbuds themselves or they just simply slap it on just to like show the consumers something, I guess. Anyway, it does show a pretty flat graph, but I'm not a sound engineer, so take my word with a grain of salt. It is a pretty flat graph and just a slightly higher treble. And I have like sort of a mixed feeling with that graph. Let's just talk about the trebles first, because it feels really dull. Like it's there, but you don't feel anything that it's bright or that is sparkly when it comes to the treble. Basically, it's not an airy experience when it comes to the treble itself. When it comes to the bass, it does feel punchy at times, but it's not that powerful kind of punch. And unfortunately, certain parts of the bass does bleed into the rest of the music as well. So when you have like someone playing a bass guitar or a sub bass kind of drone, it feels a bit muddy. It muddies up the rest of the sound signature, and that is also why the mids are also a bit, I'm not gonna say thin, but they are a bit recessed a bit. It doesn't really focus on the voice, it just compresses all the sounds almost together like one unit. An example of an experience that may make sense to you guys is having like a very thin plywood or very thin wall between you and your music. It just feels a slight bit muffled and muddy at the end of the day. But surprisingly, it's not the case for every type of genre. And be it a good or a bad thing, but these aren't the most versatile type of earbuds as well. They favor genres like hard rock or songs from the 80s or early 90s or late 70s. For example, like Hotel California sounds really good on this. I don't know why, but it just sounds good on this. But for example, more modern songs like Joji's Nectar album, it just has that muffled kind of sound that I talked about in a bit. And that is pretty confusing and pretty surprising as well. So I guess this is leaned more for those of you guys who listen to older music as compared to more modern music. Again, it's like a double-edged sword, I guess. You get something good, but at the same time you do get something bad as well. And when it comes to like the soundstage or the sound imaging, it's also a mixed bag as well. Like I mentioned, modern songs, the soundstage is very, very narrow. It's also very, very shallow as well, because you can't really pinpoint certain instruments where they're coming from, or from your left or your right. I mean, it is stereo, you do notice certain sounds coming from your left or your right, but you can't really pinpoint where it specifically is coming from, and that's a shame. But when it comes to the older songs, like for example Bohemian Rhapsody, I can slightly pinpoint certain instruments or certain vocals from where they're coming from. Like the four vocals, you can hear them coming from like bum 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 like that. And I guess it just shows that this can be quite inconsistent with the sound signature that it produces. I guess I have another example of how inconsistent it is, like the sibilants. I'm not sure why, but most songs that I listened to on this, I didn't have any trouble with any sort of sibilants. But as soon as I turned on Uptown Girl by Billy Joel, I immediately turned it off because I couldn't stand how harsh the cymbals were, or the sibilants that was produced by this earbuds. And yeah, it's just like a game of Russian roulette at the end of the day. But I am happy that it doesn't happen often, that it doesn't surprise me in a bad way often, because overall I have a very pleasant experience with the Sibyl W-11s, and that is pretty good, because I can definitely recommend this for anyone who's looking for something small, something compact, something that is cheap, that you could easily throw it in your bag, throw it in your pocket, and you don't really notice its size. If you are someone who isn't fussy about sound quality as well, this will give you decent to good sound quality, especially for the money. I guess for 30 ringgit, this is one of the better options out there. And if you are looking for something that isn't fancy, something that just works, this is it. This is a great pair of earbuds for you guys. I can't stop reiterating that it's small, it's compact, it's comfortable in my ears, the sound is decent, it's cheap, you won't be scared of losing it, you won't feel like you lost something, and most of all, it's pretty cute. And that's why I will definitely recommend the Sibyl W-11 for anyone who's looking for something affordable, something small, something comfortable, and something decent.